Hello my friends, welcome to a new video. Today a review about the Thrustmaster T598. The front features a quick release, 4 large configuration buttons and a small color screen. On the back there are the different connections available for the peripherals. You have the ability to attach a shifter via a PS2 connector. There are the pedals that can be connected via an RJ11 with the lip to the side, and then there is an unused RJ12 port. Attaching the wheelbase to the PC or PlayStation happens via USB-C. And lastly, there is also a 3-pins entry for the PSU. It's a bit weird to have all these different connections instead of just using a standard like USB-C, but from a historical perspective, understandable. There is a single button on the back that functions as an on and off switch. Since the dimensions of the base bottom are a bit narrow, Thrustmaster also included an adapter plate to attach the wheelbase to your rig. And it is a bit of a peculiar design if you compare it to other wheelbases, 21 cm by 21 cm and 16.5 depth. Comes in at 4.7 kilograms also. Now the entire casing is made out of plastic except for some metal parts for the quick release. So yeah, it's not as shiny as a Moza wheelbase or a Fanatec wheelbase. So yeah, it just gives a bit of a toy factor to this wheelbase. I think Thrustmaster could have done a lot better by, for example, putting some plexiglass in the front with a light inside the casing where you could actually see the motor. That would be nice, but well, they kept it really simple, really black. Yeah, I really am not a fan of the design. The 30 cm round steering wheel is made almost entirely out of plastic, but with the side grips made out of some sort of perforated rubber. The shifters are magnetic and made out of metal. The buttons on the front have the traditional PlayStation signs on them in combination with a D-pad and some configuration buttons. Unfortunately, there is no clear coating over the printed buttons, so they will fade easily when used. I like the design of the steering wheel, and adding the subtle red highlights to it is a certain plus. The pedals are made primarily out of metal and have a modular setup. You can change the position of the pedals slightly and add a clutch pedal when needed. The pedals can be configured also for travel distance and firmness. The brake itself comes with a replacement spring that will offer some extra resistance. The pedal faces are made out of plastic, but they don't feel fragile. Connection happens, and this is the first time I have seen this, via jack connectors towards an RJ11 cable. The brake doesn't feature a load cell, but both pedals are equipped with Hall sensors. As always, there is a lot of new technology in the T598. There is the direct axial drive, which is the future of sim racing wheelbases. What it does is it actually reduces cogging by placing the magnets a bit different, and this should eliminate a bit of the gaps that you have between the different magnetic fields. You have a magnetic field which gets a bit less, and then another magnetic field starts, so you have like these little waves. And this, especially at lower speeds or very delicate driving, this could give you a bit of a feeling that there is a bit of cogging in it. Then there is harmony, which are actually high frequency vibrations, and you will notice this by for example the gear shifting. There's a nice jolt when you shift gears, and also when you go over curbs, that it gets a bit more alive. It actually is just more noise to the force feedback. So this is something, especially with the Fanatec DD Pro, when I was driving in GT7, that I noticed that it felt a bit clinical. And this harmony technology is to add a bit more ambience to the force feedback. Another piece of technology would be the screen. With measurements of 2.5 cm by 1.5 cm, it doesn't really impress. What it does do is give you some game telemetry, and this is certainly a big plus. It will give you the option to configure your wheelbase and pedals on the fly. A last thing for technology would be that it has the ability to overshoot. This means standard it is 5 Nm of torque that you have, but it can double that amount for a very short period of time, and this is really phenomenal. Also, it makes the 5 Nm seem much more than it actually is. The software for the direct drives has been revamped and looks very tidy. There is the possibility to change the settings, but Thrustmaster opted more for a low, mid, high setting rather than having numerical values. I think that it makes it more easy for people that just start out with simulated driving. Including 4 different profiles ranging from beginner to extreme is very useful, and it's even better that they can be selected by just one press on the steering wheel. Overall, a very good and easy to use piece of software. Perhaps that the more experienced users would love to have even a bit more control, but for most people out there it will just serve fine. When it comes to compatibility, well, it is compatible with PlayStation and PC, and at this moment it's not there yet, but in the near future they will be bringing out also an Xbox version of the T598. We'll probably have a different name at that moment, but yeah, so compatibility at this moment for this wheelbase only PC and PlayStation. So for testing I am using Gran Turismo 7. I think it is the most played game on PlayStation. I found some settings on Reddit. I will post the link here to them. Have a look at them. I think it's pretty nice for settings. When it comes to the performance of the T598 on GT7, what stands out directly is the harmony part. So the jolts that you get when you shift, very noticeable. I like them really strong that I can feel them. You can put them of course a bit lighter, but you really can feel them. It's much like the TDFB that they had of Thrustmaster and the True Force of Logitech. So the feeling of the jolt, also the curbs, it brings it back. It brings it more to life, I think, with the harmony. Now when it comes to the direct axial drive part, I do feel that it is a very smooth steering. It's like they say the cogging, well, I don't really feel any cogging. It is very, very fluent to drive with. Very snappy also. Wow, nice. Very snappy also. Return to center. Here, my favorite corner, as you guys know. There is lateral force, there is the details in the road, you can feel them, very nice. However, you can feel here that it is only a 5 Nm base. Now it does have the spikes of force, and it really makes a difference. It really makes a difference. It is marketed, so the T598 is marketed as a 5 Nm base, but with the capacity to double up to 10 Nm peaks or plus even, and you really feel the difference. For those short bursts of force feedback, it's present. I really have the feeling that this wheelbase is much more powerful than the Fanatec CSL or the Fanatec GTDD Pro that I tested a long time ago. Yeah, it's definitely, the force feedback is definitely more animated. I remember when I was driving the GTDD Pro that I felt like it was very clinical, very precise, the movements okay, but it missed a bit of animo, and I think this, especially with the harmony, that it brings a bit of that animo to the track. I really had the feeling I had the car under control with wheelbase. When it slid or when the brakes locked up, I felt it and could correct swiftly. The drive itself felt alive and intense. I can safely say that for the cheapest direct drive set for PlayStation, it is an absolutely remarkable experience. Unfortunately, it's not all gold that shines. The pedals were quite difficult to get used to. I was unable to adapt the dead zones via the steering wheel and really had issues dosing the braking power. The pedals are also very linear because there is no added dampener of any sort. There was, however, a good difference between the feeling of the brake and the accelerator. I was happy with the size of the steering wheel, and the layout of the buttons feel very organized. Shifting with the magnetic shifters felt satisfying and crispy. Of course, when you drive without gloves, the plastic rim and buttons can be slightly bothersome, but in all fairness, it didn't annoy me all that much in GT7. On PC in ACC, well, okay, it's a bit the same as the experience you have from GT7, only a bit reinforced when it comes to force feedback. Here, for example, you have a lot heavier build up towards the first chicane. Nice, the curbs, you feel really well here. Oh. And here also, here you have the lateral force, you have the details in the road, but it just misses a bit of the extra power. Nice. But there is definitely enough noise, enough animo from the road details present. Here also, the details here, you can feel them well. Now here, when you go into the lower and the upper part, there you can feel again with other wheelbases that it will get a bit heavier. It will make you more feel the difference in height on the track, and that has to do with the power, the raw power that it has. Like I said, this wheelbase, it can double up its power, but that's only for short amounts and not in like that, where it is more of a constant force feedback. That being said, it's quite a very nice sensation. Very nice sensation, this wheelbase. You will be amazed. You will be amazed with the amount of details that you get from this cheap 5 Newton meter wheelbase. You really will be amazed with it. Here also, this part, you can see the steering wheel. You have the lateral force. You have the road details. There's quite a lot. When I first tested this T598 in Dortmund, when I was presented, I wasn't that keen on it at that moment. But now, a year later, well, they worked on their software, they worked on the firmware, and well, they really did a good job. They really did a good job. Of course, I tested the T598 also in BeamNG, and here it just had a bit more issues to excel. Games like BeamNG have a different emphasis than racing games. Here, the road details are less important, since in general there are also much less details to work with. It is for that reason that features like True Force, or in this case Harmony, play a much bigger role in these games. Unfortunately, Harmony is by far from what True Force is. The revving of the engine is something I miss the most. While Harmony has a lot of promise, at this point, however, I don't feel like it's an addition in BeamNG yet. But that's not all. In these games you don't really drive with gloves, and the steering wheel slides a lot more through your hands. And it's then that the cheap finishing becomes more disturbing. With that being said, I still like the drive. The details were there, as was the swift return to center and the feeling of the brakes locking and loss of traction. One thing though, the pedals performed much better on the PC platform. I had much more control of the inputs than I had in GT7. When you look online, there are quite a lot of issues with the T598, especially when it comes to disconnect of the wheelbase, and that's something which you need to keep into mind. It's of course it's difficult to say how deep this problem goes, because how many problems are there per 100 devices? It's hard to tell, but it is something which comes back regularly. And I had an issue when I was driving. At a certain moment, steering wheel stopped functioning, the shifting buttons, everything just stopped functioning. So yeah, there are quite a lot of issues with it disconnecting. Also, the quick release, it's very good. I mean, it's very easy. But I also read a few people that had an issue that it started to wear out in the center, because yeah, it's like when you turn in a screw a few times in and out, you see the inner cross, it starts to wear. Well, it's the same with the quick release of the T598. So yeah, that is also something to take into account, because of the lesser used material, that it will wear more easily. When we look at the pricing of the wheelbase, well, it comes in at 400 euro for just the wheelbase, or if you take a package, it's 500 euro. If we compare this, for example, to the Fanatec GTDD Pro, 700 euro, so it's already 200 euro difference for the complete package. And well, the G Pro of Logitech we will leave out of the equation, comes in at 1100 euro for just the wheelbase and the steering wheel. So yeah, that's a little bit of a bigger price gap. The Thrustmaster really has also a very good logistics network. You can order the wheelbase from their web shop, but they also use a lot of dealers, resellers, and there you can get a bit of a better pricing. I saw, for example, the set now at 480 euro at some resellers in my area. Fortunately, the ecosystem of Thrustmaster is quite substantial, and since they have been around for also quite some time, their hardware is also readily available and usually priced very reasonable on the second-hand market. As a conclusion, I want to say that I was really amazed at the performance of the T598 on the track, both on PlayStation and PC. So I really think it is a very good wheelbase, just like its predecessor, the T300. Very good wheelbases, but it does have a few issues. I could complain like many reviewers about the cheap steering wheel, the plastic housing, or the average pedals, but I'm not, because in the end they are good enough to start with. What does raise concerns for me is the sheer amount of complaints, and it doesn't seem to be software related. While the workaround for the T300 overheating issue was quite cheap for Thrustmaster, I think that if they can't tackle the issues of the T598, it might get very costly for them in the long run for after service. I also feel that there is still a lot more to do with Harmony. It's been a year now since they released the T598, and whilst I certainly feel and see the strength of Harmony, it's still not near the same quality of what True Force can bring, and I'm not even sure if it will even be technically possible. That being said, the T598 will offer anyone a fantastic, fluent and animated driving sensation, no matter what your platform of choice is. Thank you all for watching. I hope you had something from this video. Leave a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more videos, and I will see you all next video. Bye bye.